The sun and the shade. I first thought of using the visual tools of a lamp and a book covering the light coming from the lamp. The person underneath this shade cast by the book would not be able to clearly see the light or even recognize the light. And it also lives quite a different reality in the shade when everything else is being lighted up. And that's where I came up with the idea for this video. The gray barrier represents the thing that cuts us off from the light of God. There are several explanations as to why the blue diamond has been cut off from God. As the blue diamond, he is not sure of God's existence. Even though the blue diamond could clearly see the effects of God's light, his love, and his truth, he is unable to recognize that they come from God because he does not see God. Additionally, he sees the other diamonds that are filled with his light, his love, and his truth. This great barrier can represent many things in a person's life. It could be their ego, their own ability to explain the world, and maybe even their capabilities. In this information age, people think they know all there is to know because they are constantly digesting information. What happens is that this pride actually limits the person in their experiences. It can lower their regard for other people and it limits them from learning God's truth. This great barrier can also represent trauma. Perhaps this person has been hurt in the past and it led to many unresolved issues. They are hurt to the extent that they are afraid to feel, they are afraid to receive love, and they are afraid to step outside of the bounds that the gray barrier imposes, represented in the gray zone. It can also be a certain type of toxic theology. Theology driven on control, fear, greed, and spiritual untruth could cause people to choose not to recognize God in their lives, even if His works are so evident all around the world. And then there could also be demons and evil spirits. Demons and evil spirits operate by control. They want to limit humanity because humanity is God's creation and they bear spiteful feelings towards God. They are able to paint a view of God that is angry, unforgiving, destructive, and uncaring for their sufferings. This distorted view of God is held by many that are haunted by demons and evil spirits. When living inside this gray zone, we have trouble seeing past this space. This space that the blue diamond has been confined to. As the gray zone is completely different than the yellow zone, we become afraid of the yellow zone. We can learn to become afraid of the love and the truth that is so present, that is just there, that we clearly see because it seems so unfamiliar to our reality. When inside the gray zone, we are also hostile towards others in the yellow zone. The yellow diamonds, who are filled with love and truth, seem to be completely different. These are the attributes of the gray barrier. The barrier doesn't have to be gray, it could be any color or any size. And also, how much of the barrier is blocking the light of God is also dependent on the barrier. It could also be something that distorts the image of God rather than completely cover the light of God. Unfortunately, sometimes religion is the gray barrier that cut people from God. In this illustration, the blue diamond feels isolated and alone. It sees that the yellow diamonds are happy, able to love others, and they see the inherent value in the yellow diamonds are able to see the inherent value in themselves and others. The yellow diamonds know their creator. They seek help and assurance directly from God because they know that the universe is filled with His love and His truth. They are satisfied with what they have, and they know that this connection and relationship with God is the most valuable thing they could strive for in their lives. Additionally, the yellow diamonds, knowing that God is their creator, knows that the love that they are surrounded with is not exclusive. It is freely given, it isn't stingy, it's patient, and it allows them to be strong enough to find the truth and confront the evils of this world that try to obstruct this truth. I also know that even if the blue diamond is different, they are still brothers and sisters because all humans' souls can trace their origins to God. Though they are filled with the love of God, they have their own light. This allows them to venture into the gray barrier to try to reach the blue diamond in an act of love. At first, the blue diamond is afraid of the yellow diamond because the yellow diamond appears to have come from a completely different world. But wherever the yellow diamond went, there was a sense of happiness, fullness, and peace. The blue diamond, having gone to know the yellow diamond better, the blue diamond learns why. The yellow diamond openly allows God to shine his light, to share his love, and to share his truth in its life. In fact, it was the natural state of all diamonds to be filled with these gifts from God. They had a reason to be grateful every day. The yellow diamonds knew that all God does for them can never really be repaid, so they are able to give freely, to think of others, and to embrace those that are different, even if it is amongst themselves. In this act of bravery, the yellow diamond that entered into the blue diamond's life has shown what accepting the light, love, and truth of God is like. And gaining newfound confidence in the world outside of the gray zone and having seen what accepting God is like as seen through the yellow diamond, the blue diamond decides to leave the gray zone. Even though the blue diamond has its own thoughts, its different life experiences, and its many different perspectives, it can now bathe in the unconditional love of God, learn His truth, and be embraced in His love. Having left behind the gray barrier, the blue diamond realizes that what it wanted the most was always there, and that all he had to do was to find a different perspective. His own perspective had left him alone, afraid, and spiteful of those that were different from it. He understood that God allows it to be different, and that even though it was different, God still shared and gave His light, His love, and His truth. The blue diamond, knowing that the highest authority is a just, loving, generous, and merciful God, now has a sense of security in knowing that God is truly the one that is in charge. He was the one that decided the rules for the universe, and that God is responsible for everything that exists. Though there are many gray zones and gray barriers in this world, they literally do not hold a candle to God. Even though God wants deeply for all diamonds to see Him clearly and to love each other, He also gave the diamonds freedom to be away from Him. God lets the diamonds go, and just as He has free will, He allows all diamonds to have free will. God respects humanity's free will. Unfortunately, some diamonds choose to hide themselves away from God, even though the evidence of Him is everywhere. However, God knows that this experience of being away from Him and being cut off from His love, His truth, and His light could be an experience that makes them stronger, more faithful, and more grateful for what He freely gives. And this is how the story ends. In the loving and tender embrace of the Lord, the blue diamond sets out his life repairing what was broken, and telling the world of how he found this goodness that was always there. He removes his own gray barrier and now seeks to help all of the people that create their own gray barriers and gray zones. But to do what the yellow diamond did for it, it had to tear down its own gray barrier and its own gray zone first. If you are not saved, how can you save others? If you don't receive the unconditional love of God, you never learn to love perfectly. All you have to do to redeem this world is for each of us to remove our own gray barriers so that we no longer make the choice to be cut off from God. In reality, each person is different, but we are all capable of receiving God in our lives. Just as God respects the free will He has bestowed upon us, He has to respect the free. We have to learn to respect the free will of others. But all too often, those that are stuck in the gray zone to protect themselves choose to expand the gray barrier and to cut people off from their natural state of being with God. What we need today, more than ever, is for all humans to let God show to themselves who He really is. Once the love of God is in our hearts and His truth fixed in our minds, we can learn to love each other unconditionally and to create systems that honor God, that facilitates but not force people to do what is right.